I watched every scrunchie tutorial on the internet for you, scoured the web. These are the best ones. There's about 4 methods that I saw consistently throughout the internet. On the YouTube, if the video title said this is the fastest, this is the easiest, this is the only scrunchie tutorial you will ever need, I watched it, I compared, I took notes. And now we're going to test all these methods. And like I said, there's about 4. They all are pretty common, I'm going to be honest with you. But the 4 we're going to try out today are the most common methods. I will tell you the pros and cons of each one as our control to this science experiment. I will be using the same fabric for each one, satin, of course, because I love a satin scrunchie. And then at the end, we'll see which scrunchie method I think is the best, because everyone has different scrunchie needs. You can tell me in the comments which one you like the best. But anyway, let's get into it. I'm going to use the same fabric for all 4 scrunchies. For this first scrunchie, I'm going to use a strip of fabric that is 30 inches long by 4 inches wide and a piece of elastic that is 8 inches long. I'm dubbing this method the tube turner method, not the official name, but it's a pretty standard method you see, especially when making jumbo scrunchies. So the first thing I'm going to do is fold my fabric in half long ways and sew it, but leave a 1.5 inch gap at the beginning and end of the fabric. Now that I have my tube done, I'm going to flip it inside out. I'm using a tube turner, but if you don't have one, you can just use a safety pin or your hands. But perfect. And then I'm going to take both ends of my fabric and match up the short sides and then pin them across and then sew along this edge. Now that I did that, I'm just going to pull it and oh, I should trim my threads. Hold on. Also, if you're brand new to sewing and this is the first scrunchie video you've ever watched before, make sure that you backstitch at the beginning and end of all of your seams. Okay, now I've flipped it out and it looks like this, and then I'm just going to take my piece of elastic with my bobbin. If you don't have a bobbin, just use a safety pin. It works just as fine. This is easier. I get the hype. I understand why people own bobbins. So I'm just going to thread it through my scrunchie. Once my elastic is threaded through, I am just going to tie a double knot. I saw some people sew their elastic and other people knot theirs. But since this is only 1/4 inch elastic, I think a double knot is fine. Okay, and then, now the very last part for this method, move your knot out the way and then fold the excess seam allowance inward, and then I'm going to sew across this seam at like 1/8 of an inch or something. So I'm going to tell you the pros and cons of each method as we go along. So with this first one, I like that the end result, it's very scrunched up looking. The only thing I don't love is that I think the elastic is too small. I have very small wrists. And when I say very small, I think my wrists are 6.5 or 6 1/4. 6. 6-inch wrists. And I think you need longer elastic in order to do the double knot. Obviously you could sew it, but that just takes more time. But I think the overall result is very cute, and I don't mind how much of a top stitch edge there is. Of the scrunchies I own, some of them are done this way. So I think in general, this is a very good looking product. So for this next method, I'm calling it the overlap method, and you also sew a tube on it. But before you sew the tube, you take the wrong side of the fabric and you fold over the short end, wrong sides together, and you fold it in half and make your tube. We'll see. This piece of fabric is 3.5 inches wide by 22 inches long, and my elastic is 9 inches long. I'm going to sew my tube all the way from one side to the other, not leaving any spaces or open gaps. Okay, and then I'm going to take my elastic with my bodkin and then just thread it through the tube. Now that the elastic's in, I'm going to move the elastic knot over to the side out the way, because we want it out the way when we're sewing. And then I'm going to take the part of the fabric that wasn't folded under and slip it in to the folded under piece, and then I'm just going to sew straight across right there. So if you look closely, I can zoom in. This is the folded over edge, and this is it slipped in, and I'm just going to sew closely along the edge. So that does mean that I'm sewing over the elastic and pinning it in place. So this one, I think that I like the fact that it's basically just 2 seams that you sew, and it's definitely a bigger scrunchie, I would say. Like the hole is bigger. You could probably double it up a little bit better too if you wanted. So if you have really thick hair, I typically use scrunchies at night when I do my pineapple method. I don't normally wear them in my ponytails. I didn't love the fact that because I use such a slippery fabric that when I stuff the non-folded over edge into the folded over section, I couldn't see what I was doing. So I actually had to go over the seam twice because it didn't catch on the back end. Don't love that. And then it really just kind of flattens it out too, which isn't as cute. Now my mini scrunchies and the one I have in my hair are actually done in this method. And I think that makes sense for a smaller one, but because I think it would be too small of a fabric and too fiddly if you did it on the previous method. So like, I like how much extra elastic I have in this one, but I just don't love the squishiness of this. But let's keep going. This next method is a bit rogue, but it's the only person I've ever seen do it. Quite a bit of prep up front, but you only have to sew like one seam. So we're just gonna call it Rosary Apparel's method because she's the only person I've ever seen do this. So the first thing you need to do is take your fabric and sew the long sides inward, so wrong sides, about 1/2 inch. This piece of fabric is 4 inches wide by 20 inches long. Okay, so I folded in, my camera cut off, but I folded in both ends 1/2 inch, and then I just folded it inwards in half, and then I'm just using my clapper to get it flat. And then I'm going to take it to the machine. All right, now that I've done all my ironing, I'm going to be honest with you, I did not do this in the order of operations that she says to, but this just worked out for me better. So I'm going to take the short edges and pin them together and sew them across, but I am going to unfold the pressed edges and just sew those together like that. And then I'll just fold them back over I'll just fold them back over once I'm done sewing. Now that the short sides are sewed together, I'm going to press this seam open, and then I will just refold down and press the long edges. So now we have this fabric tube, and I am going to top stitch all along the folded or the open edge basically, and then just leave a small opening so I can thread the elastic through it. Now I'm just going to find my bodkin and elastic. There it is. I'm just going to take my elastic and thread it through the small opening. I left it, it's probably about 5/8 of an inch. I'm just going to tuck the knot in and then sew the opening close. So pros, this was very fast. Like this was probably the quickest one we did. With the, so there's a lot of pressing up front, and then once you do that, this like you just show one seam. So that's very cool. It's also very stretchy, and fits very comfortably on my wrists. My cons would be, I just think it's really flat compared to the other ones. Like what I look for in a scrunchie, I like the volume, you know, and this one's just real flat all along. And like it definitely has scrunchie appeal, but it's just, I think with all the pressing, especially with this satin, it just flattened it out. So I don't love that. And I also don't love, I think even, you know, as time goes on and whatnot, I think even with the seam is, you can't really tell, but it's like a 1/4 inch seam allowance. And I checked, I like looked at hers. It's probably like a centimeter. I looked at hers and hers has it too. I think it flattens it out a lot. So this is definitely a beginner friendly version. And could you double it up? Yeah, you could double it up. So that's a nice pro too. But I mean, this is definitely the easiest one we made. I timed it and it took me 5 minutes to sew this. This was ridiculously easy. I'm kind of shocked by how easy it was. All right, let's do the burrito method. So for the burrito method, I didn't name it that. That's just what's universally known as. I have a piece of fabric that is 5 inches wide by 26 inches long. I have pinned the short sides together and I'm just going to sew up that seam and then press it open, and then we'll get to the burrito-ness of it all. My elastic is 10.5 inches. I'm going to take the top and fold it inwards towards the center, making sure not to grab the piece of the fabric where the seam is. And then I'm going to do the same with the bottom and roll it inwards. And then you can stack them up on top of each other. And then I'm going to take the underlayer with one with the seam on it and match it up with the top. And if you've ever sewn clothes and done the burrito method, it's very similar. So I'm just going to put a little pin right here. And then pin it here, just making sure not to catch the fabric that is in the center that we, if it were a burrito, that would be our filling. Make sure it's out the way. You don't have to use this many pins. Like I said before, my fabric is just very slippery. So I'm just going to sew between these two pins, and I'll show you what I'm going to do next. I'm going to reach inside of there, inside the tube, and pull the fabric out, and then sew along the seam. Now that we have this, I left about a 1 inch opening. I'm just going to reach in and pull the rest of the scrunchie out. Now, hindsight, if this fabric was not this slippery, you should leave a bigger opening, but I knew it would work. And so there you go. Okay, now I just need to thread my elastic in. All right, now that the elastic is pulled through, I'm just going to pull it out, and then I am going to, oh, I lost my hole. Okay, I'm just going to top stitch along this hole and close it up. I'm done with the burrito method. So pros and cons. This was very easy. I think the burrito part can be intimidating if you've never sewn before or have never done it, but I have, because I normally make clothes, so that wasn't that intimidating to me. And I like that it's just like one stitch and done, and then you do it. I think that enough elastic, it's pretty loose on my wrists. Can we double it? Oh, this one doubles the easiest out of all of them. Let's see, what don't I like? Seam is on the outside, and I also just feel like so the part that you top stitch is so small, it's not distracting, doesn't flatten it out, doesn't take anything away from it. So I really like that. I just wish this were, I guess, fluffier. This is probably the least fluffy of all of them. Yeah, that's probably my only con to it. So let's see all 4 on my wrists next to each other, and then I'll also line them up on the table. This is the Burrito method. This is the Rosary apparel one. This is the fold under or like overlap one. And this is the like tube method. Traditional tube method. So here's all 4 different levels of scrunchiness. I will say the Rosary apparel one is the tightest on my wrists, and the second tightest is the very first one, like the pull through tube method. And here are all 4 of them on the table. This one is the pull through tube. This one is the overlap tuck in method. This one is Rosary apparel. And this one is the Burrito method. Which one do you like the best? So my favorite, for me personally, if I were to make more scrunchies, because I am trying to do some scrap busting, I like the first one the most. I think it's so cute. I think that I would just next time make my elastic longer. I like how squishy it is. I like how much volume is going on. I don't have very thick hair. I have very thin, fine hair, so it's okay for me that it's not like I can't double it up. That's fine. The only thing I would change is making my opening smaller so I don't have as much of a flat edge. But besides that, everything else, I love it. I like this one the most. I'm going to keep all of these, obviously. But you let me know which method you like the most. Like I said, I scoured the internet, and these were the most popular methods. These had the most views, and so I checked them all out, and I tried them all for you, and you let me know what you think. This is a good experiment. If there are any other projects or tutorials out there that you want me to try out that are very popular, please let me know in the comments down below. I've seen a few that I'm already kind of interested in, like a zippered pouch is a very popular one. But if there's any other ones, please let me know. But anyway, if you like this video, please give it a like. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye.